everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thobeka Dlamini here. Thanks for making time just to watch this broadcast. I do know that you will grab one or two things. If you're married, if you're not married, you can pack yourself some lunch and some, and something for the way. Knowledge is never wasted. I believe that we need knowledge, and this is something I'm really passionate about because I really believe that good marriages are possible, healthy marriages are possible, but our ignorance and our lack of willingness to get the knowledge that is necessary is what is costing most of us. I don't really believe that there are any two perfect people that are married. I just believe that those people just went an extra mile in working on the marriage and fixing things that are not working within the marriage. And you find that they look like they're the happiest people on earth, but they actually put in the work within the marriage so that the marriage can be functional and healthy. And so allow me today to speak about when to seek for help. How do you know when it's time within your marriage to seek for help? We do understand that this is an institution that God, founded, and He put principles in place to make sure that this institution works. But sometimes people find themselves at loggerheads trying to figure out how to reach consensus on certain issues and how to make their marriage work. And that's when we do advise that people seek for outside help. I will highlight towards the end of this video as to what that help is or who do you go to, because I believe that's also one of the things that is going wrong, that people are looking for help at really not so good sources, and sometimes things end up even worse than they were initially. So allow me to use an illustration of a car. A car has certain things that it alerts you with. It can alert you with the advanced cars. It will alert you on the system, on the dashboard, that there's something wrong with the brakes, there's something wrong with the engine, there's something wrong with the wires here and there. And so we do know that even within a marriage, there are signals that that actually signal to us that the marriage has challenges or something is going wrong in the union. And most of the time, I would say majority of the time, you find that people are oblivious to those signals. And sometimes people are surprised when they are served with, divorce papers that, oh, okay, I thought we were fighting like all other couples. And the other party is thinking, no, the fighting was not normal. It was every day, abnormally so, aggressive, physical. And so today we want to just look at what are some of those signals. What are some of those signals that really something is wrong within your union, so that you don't delay. You don't want to drive a car that has brake failure and you drive it at 180 kilometers per hour on a dicey road. You're going to go over the cliff. And when those things happen in marriages, there are casualties. Sometimes you find kids are affected, and even the people that are within the union are affected, because nobody gets married to fail. Nobody gets married to quit, and nobody gets married. All of us, when we get married, we always say it's forever. Well, the carnal language says, you are mine forever. Of course, we know we will pass on, but it's for life. It's a lifetime commitment. But what I do want to highlight is that there are signals, and I want us to look at a few of those that tell us that a marriage is in trouble and now needs intervention and needs outside help. Now, one of those signals, yes, within the first 7 years, you will have maybe more conflict than not within the marriage, because you are trying to get to know each other. You are still trying to synchronize and become one. And so obviously there are going to be differences. Obviously there are going to be clashes. But do note in your marriage, when there are ongoing arguments where you never reach a consensus, where you never reach a point where you say, okay, this is the solution to this problem, or this is how we are going to go about this, then there's a really big problem, because it means you are in a wrestling match that is not achieving anything, and you are in a wrestling match with each other that is sort of zapping you of your strength, taking, it's just draining you emotionally, physically, and otherwise. And I think once a marriage gets to a point where you feel like you are being drained physically, emotionally, and otherwise, you must get help, because it means that whatever you are dealing with amongst the two of you, you are failing to resolve, and now it needs a mediator. It does not say that your marriage is on the rocks, but it is saying now you need a third person who's going to be a neutral voice to you, and who's going to speak life and sense to you, and bring you up from where you are in order to fix the issues that are within your marriage. And so that's point number one. Beware if you are fighting non-stop with no solutions, with no solution in place. Every argument must end up with a solution. Some people like to end arguments with "I'm sorry" for the sake of peace. And sometimes in the "I'm sorry," there is still no peace, because the other person feels whatever they were voicing out was not attended to. So please, if you are seeing those signs in your marriage, it's time to ask for outside help before there is more damage, before there is more commotion. Now, point number two, how you will see that your marriage is now, experiencing that gap or that drifting. You'll find that within the marriage, yes, there's two of you. Yes, I do believe that within marriage we are all supposed to be independent of each other, but we are supposed to be interdependent. And as much as we are two individuals who are pursuing our dreams, who are pursuing our passions, there is an interdependence which God speaks about initially in the Bible. There is a cleaving effect that has to be there in every marriage. And once there is that lack of emotional cleaving within the marriage, there is a problem. So now you find that it's the two of you. You are now basically living like roommates. You are sharing space, but you are not in each other's world. You don't know what is going on in your spouse's life. You don't know how their day was. You don't know what their dreams are. You are just drifting. There is no big problem per se, but you are sort of on two different worlds, but in one house. And that is one of the signs. And I know there are a lot of marriages like that. When you interact with, especially when you interact with women, you find that it's a problem. Most women feel men are not involved in their lives. They are not involved in their passions or in their aspirations. There is never an interest as to what goes on in their lives. And so once you experience that sort of extreme independence within a marriage, then there is a problem, because all of you might be independent to a certain extent, but with the cleaving that is expected by God himself, the founder of marriage, you find that you are lacking in that. And once you lack in that, it becomes a problem, because the gap grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you find that you are living two separate lives, but in one house. You no longer report on even on finances or savings. You no longer report on, you no longer bounce things off each other. What are your thoughts about this? My plans for 2021 and this. There are some couple, if you were to call them in now and ask them, what is your partner's vision for 2021? You would not get a straight answer. They are not involved. They are just living independently of each other. So you might not be fighting, you might be keeping a safe space, but in a marriage where people are on extreme levels of independence, there is a problem. You need to find each other again. You need to see somebody to check on your marriage and service your marriage before there are further problems within the marriage. Okay, point number 3. Now, this is a very sensitive point, because there is a stage in your marriage, which I did highlight on the first 7 years or so, quite a number of conflict, cases. You'll interact, step on each other's feet here and there, but at least the love is there. At least the warmth is there. At least the connection is still there despite everything else that is going on. But if you are now within a marriage where Whenever you have to drive home from work, or wherever you have to leave where you are to go to your place of rest, which is supposed to be your home, you actually feel more frustrated than happy. There is a problem in the system. Our families or our households are supposed to be a place where we go to refresh, where we go to refill, where we go to be at peace, where we go to rest, so that when we leave our households to go outside there, we are refueled to do our duties, our jobs, whatever it is that God has mandated us, we are able to do it, but we've had a chance to refill. So now what is happening with most households is that there's so much commotion within the house that when a person is away, they actually feel happier than when they are in the house. I don't know if I'm putting it in a way that someone will be clear on it. So you find joy and happiness outside your marriage than you do within your home. That is a sign that something is going wrong, And I'm not saying that we achieve this level overnight. I'm not saying that we achieve this, in a few months of marriage or a few years of marriage. I believe this is something that we work on, to know that even though we may fight, let not our spouses resent coming home, to a place where they are supposed to rest, where they are supposed to be at peace. Now, I'm not saying there are not days where you will not feel like going home. Please don't get me wrong. Within your marriage, there will be seasons. There are days when you will really feel like going home to that environment is probably a drag, but at least you are working on fixing things. But I'm saying now, it's been a period of 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you are still not enjoying to be in your home environment. It can only mean one thing. There are underlying issues within your marriage that are not solved, that have not been dealt with. And every time a commotion or an argument comes up, it always triggers all the other bombs that have been hidden somewhere in the house. And so it's always explosive. And this is something that you need to fix quite quickly, because I believe that if you are in the right relationship and you are with somebody that you love, when you come home must be your place of rest and your place of peace. This is my firm belief, and your place of security. And any marriage where you do not feel this kind of settlement, or where you do not, it means that there's extra work that you need to put in until your marriage gets to a point where coming home feels like home, feels peaceful, feels welcoming despite the challenges that you are facing. Remember, the challenges of life, they comprise of different segments of your life. And so sometimes you can have problems in all the other areas of your life. But if you have a home that is peaceful to come back to, a home where you can rest, it makes all the other problems look minimal, because you have a reservoir where you can gain strength to move out to serve the world, to move out to do your job, to move out to minister to others. And so we all have to reach this level in our marriage, where we know that home is a safe place, home is a peaceful place. And I hope I've put that point across to you safely without sounding like marriage has to be perfect. I'm trying to say that no marriage is perfect, but at least the environment to which you come back to, you should be looking forward to coming home than leaving home, if I can put it like that. You should be looking forward to coming home than leaving home. So when the environment of the house becomes so cold that you continuously want to be outside of the house, that is a sign that something has gone wrong in your union, and you need to get help immediately, as soon as you can. Now, this is another one that I want to highlight to you. People never know that sometimes silence is a sign of trouble. You can be, and this happens a lot with women. You know, a woman can raise issues with you a number of times until they become silent. When they become silent, it's not a sign that they are happy with whatever you are doing. When they reach a point of silence, they actually say, I no longer care what you do what you want to do. This is a very dangerous place in marriage where one of the other parties has spoken about something for so long, it has not changed. There has been no effort to change it. There has been no remorse shown. This becomes a problem because now the other one shuts down emotionally and shuts you off. Sometimes it can be silent treatment. Sometimes it's not silent treatment. They still do everything for you on a daily basis. They still love you. They still, they probably still sexually intimate with you, but you can sense it and you can feel it that there is a part of them that has shut down. This is not a good place. And I've heard most men say, but she's never really fought me about this particular issue. Yeah, she used to raise it in the beginning, but she doesn't raise this type of issue anymore. And I always say, once a woman stops raising an issue, it means she has stopped caring, because the moment she's still raising the issue, she still cares. She still wants to work on the issue. The moment she keeps quiet, it means that she has reached her limit. She doesn't feel like there's anything more that she can say around this issue because it has not changed. That is not a good place to be in marriage, where a woman or a man cannot express how they feel. They always feel like there's a barrier. So beneath everything that is going on, there is a ticking time bomb. It's just waiting for the relevant time to explode. And so when you see your partner quiet about the issues that were affecting them, that you have not changed, but they are no longer raising them, it does not mean they are happy with them. It means that beneath the surface, some resentment is building, and if that is not attended to, one day it will explode. Without fail, it's going to explode. So those are some of the warning signs that your marriage needs intervention. Your marriage needs an outside person for help. Now, this is what I would like to advise before I close this video. So to say, we need to recognize these signs and act as quickly as we can. We need to take responsibility for our God-given mandate, which is marriage. Because when God puts you in a marriage, He has mandated you to love somebody, to support them for the rest of your life. And you have God to answer to. So it's not just, a marriage is not just one of those things you do. It's very serious business for God. As much as everything else you are doing in your life is serious, marriage and family is serious business to God. And so, please, this is something that usually goes wrong. Now, I want to caution people that it's very important that every couple has a mentor couple, somebody that you look up to, that you can consult when you are not reaching consensus. It doesn't mean that you are on the rocks or your marriage is on the rocks, but we just need your input. We are failing to organize our finances. We need input as to how to organize ourselves. We are failing on the issues of in-laws. Please, can you give us insight on how we can manage the situation? And so that person becomes a third voice to you, a neutral voice to you that helps your marriage through. So every couple needs a mentor couple. And sometimes you find, if you are Christian and you've got church leadership or spiritual fathering, you find that it's the spiritual father that plays that role and mediates when there are challenges and when there are issues. And sometimes you might find that you find that you do go to your leaders and they are being biased. They don't show being neutral, or they don't show how do I say it? They don't show that, just that area of being in the middle, and not taking his side or your side, but looking at the problem objectively. Because sometimes you can have spiritual leadership that is not vested in issues of counseling and issues of resolving conflicts within the homes. You are allowed to see a psychologist. You are allowed to see a counselor, a marriage counselor, whoever it is that is qualified as well to help you through your problems. Because sometimes we have sent people to their spiritual coverings only to find that the problems become worse. You find that the pastor takes sides, or sides with the woman or sides with the man. You need somebody who has the wisdom to look at the problem objectively and give objective advice without causing harm, and somebody that is going to be confidential with your information and not take your information out, and you find your information on a lot of platforms. And so it's very, very important to be able to note where you can get help. And I want to advise and caution against this sort of help. No matter how close you are to your family, to your mother, to your father, to your sisters, never take your marital problems home. Never take your marital challenges home, because when you take your marital challenges home, you will forgive and forget about whatever happened. And remember, you are from that family. You've been there all your life. They don't want anything that's going to upset you or rub you the wrong way. You find that your family now is holding on to the offenses of your spouse, and it spoils relations. I've come across a lot of marriages where people separated without getting the help that they need to get from counselors, from psychologists, from church leaders. And when the issues go home, you find that they are more complicated. And when you look at the problems, you realize they could have been solved without the intervention of the family. The only time we reach out to our parents, to our elders, to our families is if our lives are at stake, we are dying. You are staying with an abuser, he's beating you up. You can see that your lives are under threat, your children's lives are under threat. On cases like that, you are more than allowed to go home and say, this is not working out, my life is under threat, I don't feel safe. But with other challenges, whatever they may be, if they are not life-threatening, please go through these. Go through pastors, go through counselors, go through psychologists. And if all else has failed, you can then go home. I've seen a lot of marriages being destroyed and people separating for good because they took their problems home. I do hope that this particular broadcast did shed some light to you about some of the red flags that your marriage needs intervention. And I just want to say to you, when your marriage has challenges, never feel like you are the only one. Every marriage has had to work through something to be where it is. Sometimes you see people happy, hugging. You know, marriage is not what we see on social media. Marriage is something we work on behind the scenes and make sure that we create a stable environment for ourselves as a couple and for our children. So never be put under pressure by social media. Never try to prove a point that you are happy, but put in the work in your marriage behind the scenes and trust God to work it out for you. But on top of trusting God to work it out for you, do get help if you need it. Sometimes you do need somebody who's going to look at the problem objectively and give you the relevant advice that you need. And so I do hope today's broadcast did help one or two, and hopefully it did save someone's marriage out there to know that these are the signs. Let me quickly act. Let me quickly do something about it. Now, to all the male species, word of caution to all the males around the world, looking for help or seeking help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom, because we meet a lot of women that come for counseling, that come for help, and they come without their spouses. And sometimes it's like you are trying to put some air on two tires whilst the other tires are lying, and you are saying the car must reach its destination. For the car to reach its destination, all the tires must be changed, must be filled in, so that the car can move from point A to point Z. And so I do advise males. I know males don't particularly, gel to counselors, to psychologists, to pastors. When your wife says, can we get some help? It's not a sign of weakness. She's actually trying to say, I want to work on this. I want to make it work. And so I hope with today's broadcast, somebody did get something. And so with the next couple of broadcasts, we'll be diving deeper into other issues. And really, this is just more to build your homes and to uplift you, to say that healthy marriages are possible. Not perfect marriages, but healthy marriages are possible. Please do remember to subscribe, share with your friends, family, the married, the unmarried. I do believe that this information will help somebody. And somebody who's out there struggling in marriage, they're saying this thing does not work. It does work if we put in the effort, if we have the willingness to work on it, and the willingness to change, and the willingness to adjust the things that are not working for our unions. Marriage is possible, and healthy families are possible. And so I do hope that next time you will also tune in and enjoy our lovely content. We're still going to dip deeper into other issues, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming videos. Till next time, thanks for your time.